Hi, welcome to another Album of Record podcast. I'm Craig, joined as always by Andrew, where we have nothing but technical difficulties, but we seem to be here. How's it going, Andrew?
Let's see. Today or yesterday, Monday, I was literally just doing nothing. I had some laundry on the floor. I reached over to pick it up, and all of a sudden, just a shooting pain right down my back, through my hip, knocked me to my knees. Some nice little sciatic tweaking of some sort. And yeah, getting old sucks, man. I hate this.
Yeah, this is a young, vital podcast where we talk about the best new music and also back pain, random back pain.
Sciatic.
But honestly, I think that started, you're susceptible to that the minute you turn 30.
Yeah.
So
And I've done it before. It's not my first time. So this one was worse than usual. This one was pretty bad. But already by today, I'm starting to be like on the road back. I've still got, it usually takes me a good week to get over it. So
but like even if you have a shortcut to getting better, because I've had it before, and massage often helps in this day and age and this time period with the cost of everything having gone up like 30% in the last year and a half.
yeah.
It's like you feel like you can't even afford to do the things that you need to do to take care of yourself anymore.
No, that's definitely true. Stretching is free. So
Stretching is free.
doing the sciatic stretches every morning.
And there are 150 million very inexpensive inversion tables on Facebook Marketplace. You just have to be willing to go pick them up.
Yeah,
which
true.
you would be able to do if you didn't have sciatic nerve pain.
Yeah, right, exactly.
You need a good friend to go pick it up for you and set it up in your house.
Of that. Yeah. But other than that, I'm doing all right.
Yeah, I'm back on the live music train. Some shows that I talked about on the podcast probably a couple weeks ago. I saw Minus the Bear on the 20th anniversary of Menos El Oso. They came to Cleveland, and the opening band was Into It Over It. You ever listen to Into It Over It?
I know I have, and I'm
Me
sure
too.
It's because you've told me to listen to them. I'm pretty sure.
I think they just get recommended in our sphere. I don't think I've ever recommended them.
Okay, maybe that's what it is. And I'm certainly familiar with them, not necessarily a fan, but I am familiar with them.
So they were good opening up for Minus the Bear. It seems like they just happened to be in town to do another show, and they got put on the show. And this is going to be a weird thing for me to say coming off of a live show at the House of Blues, but they were really loud.
Ooh.
Almost to the point where it seemed oddly way too loud of a mix for the place like the House of Blues, which is usually very well mixed. Like, it's not quiet, don't get me wrong, but it also, like, they seem to know the right levels to make you sound your best without making people's ears bleed.
Yeah.
But Into It Over It was really freaking loud. Like,
okay.
And I wear earplugs, and it was still really loud.
The year of loud shows for you.
Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
What was my other loud show?
Deftones.
Yeah, but I did wear earplugs. That one didn't bother me because I had earplugs in, but it was super loud.
That one was loud. That was a very loud show.
But at the same time, the Sleep Token show was not super loud in the same venue. So you can find a nice mix with different metal bands in the same venues. It's strange. So then Minus the Bear comes on, they did the thing. They played Menos El Oso front to back, all in order, and then a selection of hits, and then 2 more hits in the encore. Some shows have been getting 3 hits in the encore. We only got 2. I think it's because our show wasn't sold out, probably. But it was good. I enjoyed it a whole lot. It was great to have this band back, even if it's only been 7 years since their farewell tour, which I went to in a venue down the street. God, they sound just as good as they ever did. The singing by Jake Snyder is just as good as it ever was. Dave Knudsen, I think it's Nuds. It's like a silent K, Knudsen. Just as engaging and incredible as ever on the lead guitar. But I once again restate my case that these 20th anniversary tours should play a heavy selection from the Celebration album, but not the entire thing from front to back. It was okay because Menos El Oso is a great record, but you could have skipped 4 of those, just played 5 or 6 of them, heavily feature it, and play the rest of your stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
You're not a big Minus the Bear guy, are you?
I'm not. I was just like thinking about it. I had like a 2-year period in which I listened to them a lot. And I don't remember if Manos was the album. What was the one after that?
Omni?
Yeah,
There was
Omni. That was the
highly
one.
refined pirates.
That was the one that I originally got into, and then I
Okay.
kind of went backwards to Manos, and yeah, I certainly like them. It's just not a band that like ever got like really on my radar, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It was always just kind of like, oh, I would like see something and check, kind of like, oh, I should check these guys out, kind of thing.
It's the kind of band that, for whatever reason, I ended up seeing live a bunch during that early 2000s time period. And then they played when they were way too big to play the Grog Shop. They played, I think, an afternoon and a night show on the same day for one of the anniversaries, because
That's cool.
they had come up in the Grog Shop. And so I think this might have been the 7th or 8th time I've seen this band over the years.
Oh, wow.
which is a lot. I mean, I've
That
seen a
is a
lot of bands a
lot.
lot of times, but Minus the Bear, for whatever reason, really, some bands just click with certain cities, and I feel like Minus the Bear never skipped Cleveland.
Yeah. Well, maybe they will now that they didn't sell this one out.
I know, right? On the 20th anniversary of a record, but it was a Tuesday night as well,
Yeah.
It's tough to
Yeah.
sell anything out on a Tuesday night in Cleveland.
Sure.
Speaking of which, another Tuesday night in Cleveland last night, I just broke the fourth wall. Now people know we're recording on a Wednesday. Oh. I was at the Roxy which is the larger venue at Mayhalls. This was originally scheduled to be in Mayhalls, and after seeing the crowd, it got upgraded to the Roxy, which is much larger. Okay. And it's hysterical to even consider that they ever thought the show would have been able to play in that smaller version of the venue, because it was packed.
You know that you haven't said yet who the artist is.
Sorry. Saturdays at your place. Thank you. This is why I have a co-host. People would be out there listening going, he never mentioned the band he saw.
I debated letting it go just to see how long we can have this discussion without mentioning the band. But
man, I just buried the lead. Saturdays at your place. They had one of my favorite new records this year, These Things Happen. They're on the These Things Happen tour. A band called Riley from Texas opened up. I'd listened to some of their stuff ahead of the show, and I was kind of middle on it, but they were really freaking good live. Unfortunately, due to van trouble, Carly Cosgrove was not able to make it to this show. Vans always just undermine regional touring bands.
They really do. It's uncanny how often that happens.
Yeah.
But, the economics of it, what are they supposed to do?
I mean, figure out how to come up with probably a few $1,000s to get it fixed, and then try and make it up, selling T-shirts and vinyl and whatnot. Yeah. It's just, everybody who gets into music the way you and I do ends up reading an article or an interview with a band that talks about how every tour is essentially like a business plan, and something like a van breaking down or somebody getting ill and forcing them to miss 3 shows throws an entire monkey wrench into something that's on a tiny, tiny shred of a margin as it is.
It's truly catastrophic for a tour. Like, in the long run, bands can survive it, but for that particular tour, if your van breaks down, you're not making money on that tour.
It very sucks. Well could, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was it. But yeah, Saturdays at your place, you forget just how they're so melodic and kind of poppy that sometimes you forget how punk their roots are. And then all of a sudden you're watching them live and they've ripped through 6 songs in about 14 minutes. And it's like, oh yeah, they do have short songs. And so it was a great set list, went all over the place, played all the songs I wanted to hear. People were moshing and crowd surfing, kind of like I don't know if it was like a self-aware Wall of Death.
Okay. All right.
Where they like opened it up, but it was like lighthearted and fun Wall of Death.
Yeah. Little different than some of the ones you see on YouTube.
And this will fit in really well with your back pain sciatica. Because Carly Cosgrove couldn't make it, I was home by 11.
See, gotta love that.
I miss Carly Cosgrove. Happy to be home by 11.
Yep, that's the old man concert, little like hidden gem of a old man show is when you get home early.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to over talk for the next couple of minutes to explain what we're going to talk about, and then I'm going to finally give Andrew some room. This has been very me heavy in the opening of the podcast. One of the things that Andrew and I love to do most is our year-end rankings, our year-end ratings of all these records that we listen to throughout the course of the year. We've got a really cool idea for how to talk about them all and place them on tiers. And then Andrew's still going to create a top 10 and probably a top 20 because he's crazy like that. But when we're going to do the tier episode where we actually bring these records in and put them on the tiers, but that kind of an episode doesn't really lend itself to going in depth and talking about this record versus that record. And so I thought we'd kind of dig into the contenders for the top 5 and how we're thinking about them and how hard it is to rank them and pit them against each other, in some cases in very different genres, very different themes and sounds. So with that, do you want to start right at the top where you're struggling? Do you want to start a little bit on the lower end? Where do you want to start, Andrew? I got to give you the floor.
We can start at the top. I don't mind disclosing that I have narrowed down my personal album of the year to 2 albums, and it's Deaf Heaven versus The Armed. And I truly think I'm not being hyperbolic when I say I think this is the hardest decision I've ever had to make between 2 albums for like which one was going to be my favorite album of the year. I can't even say I'm leaning one way or the other. I truly have no idea which of these albums I'm going to choose for number 1. And it sucks that one of them isn't going to be number 1 because they both truly, truly deserve it for me. And to kind of talk about like, I think I went a decent chunk of like late summer where I wasn't sure Deaf Heaven was going to be here. I think I had kind of forgotten about this album a little bit.
Or taking it for granted.
Yeah, it just fallen out of my rotation for a bit. It just, as things tend to happen. But, once the started getting those cooler evenings and you just start getting in that Deaf Heaven mood and started listening to Lonely People with Power again. And I was like, oh yeah, it was like immediate. It was like, oh my God. Yeah. Wait, what was I thinking with this? This is album of the year right here. And I definitely then had a period of time where I thought, okay, it's going to be Deaf Heaven. This is their year to finish with my number 1 album of the year. And then out of nowhere comes this Armed album. And I don't think any album I listened to this year blew me away quite as much as The Armed did. And I've been a huge fan of theirs for a long time. This was a highly anticipated album for me. I was excited for it, but I don't think I was prepared for how much I was going to love this album and what a wrecking ball this album would be. And so, like, in looking at it, I think Deaf Heaven's album is the most impactful album of the year. Just a song like Amethyst alone, let alone the marvelous Orange Tree, Winona, like these massive pillars that they have on that album are just, nobody does what Deaf Heaven does. I mean, when Deaf Heaven is at their best, like, it's really hard for there to be a better band than them, in my opinion.
Let me poke and prod this a little bit.
Yeah.
So in order for it to be the album of the year, the number 1, my criteria is I think it's going to have to be a career defining album for the band, number 1. And then number 2, I need to love it personally. And number 3, I want to feel like it's important to the culture, even if it's a niche culture, like American black metal.
Yeah.
Mixed with shoegaze. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Heavy music. And in this case, these are 2 bands that fit into the wide genre of American heavy music. And so out of those 3 criteria, do you feel like these are both career defining records for the bands?
Yes, but in very different ways, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I would say for Deaf Heaven, it's career defining because it was such an unanswered question after Infinite Granite. Like, where was this band going next? It was just so wide open. We talked about this at length across multiple episodes before Lonely People came out, that we had no real idea of what to expect. Were they going to lean in that further in that direction, or were they going to go right back to their roots, or would it be somewhere in between? And we just didn't know. And for them to put out this album as the follow-up to that is just, to me, it was a statement of what Deaf Heaven is.
And
And
a perfect
so
natural progression. So
yes,
I hear you, understood, now do the Armed.
so for the Armed, it's a little bit different because they were coming off the sort of the pop trilogy, if you will, in which they set out with a purpose for these 3 albums, in which they were going to redefine like an inversion of pop music presented through a filter or context of hardcore. And it was ambitious, it was audacious, and it was pretty well done. But even then, it was like, okay, so they've done this, like, how do you sort of top that, and where do you go next? And what they did instead was they just channeled everything that's happening in our society today and funneled it through this one album, which is an expression of pure rage against, they had to cancel, they famously had to cancel a tour because of poor ticket sales. They had like all these sort of like post-COVID issues happening, and it was just like this reckoning that like put out like this just pure art of hardcore, if you will. Like, it's really hard to describe what that means. So I don't know if this will be like the album that people like will always look to for the Armed. I don't know if like it's if you're looking for an entry point for somebody, you would probably point them at Perfect Savior, right? Like,
All right. So
that.
you ready to be poked again?
Yeah.
So you've eliminated Turnstile and their new record from being in your top of the year, Never Enough.
It's going to be right behind it, but
but
it's not quite there for me, that album.
that's a record that you got to hear live. You got to see it be a record that took a band that kind of broke big and broke them in an even bigger way, where they are an absolute headliner. I don't picture them opening up for Blink 182 anytime soon.
No.
And at any point, does the how am I going to feel about this ranking in 5 years question, how does that ever factor into your equation? Because when you think about that question in terms of Deaf Heaven, The Armed, and Turnstile, things get a little bit wonky if that's a consideration.
It does. That's a really great question. And the way I would answer it is, if I were a betting man, 5 years from now, I'm still going to be listening to Never Enough all the time.
I think the
I
world
don't
is.
I don't know if that's as true for Deaf Heaven or The Armed. They like Deaf Heaven has such like you're always going to be drawn back to Sunbather, right? For me, Ordinary Corrupt Human Love is probably my favorite of their album. And so I don't think that Lonely People is my favorite Deaf Heaven album. So it's possible that I won't go back to that as much. And like The Armed, again, like I don't know if this will be the one that I go back to. And with Turnstile, like I just listen to everything they put out. So, and to be clear, I listened to Never Enough more than either of these albums that I'm considering for my number one. So that is a little bit wonky. I can fully admit that. But to answer your specific question, does it go into my criteria? It does not. I am always very much of just in the moment for this year. And as much as I love Turnstile and Never Enough, there's enough things that I don't love about Never Enough that it's not as perfect of an album as Lonely People or oh my god, The Armed. The future is here. And so it's a little bit weird, like, oh, well, the album that I listen to the most isn't my favorite album of the year. And some of that is just natural baggage of like Turnstile just maybe being my personal favorite band right now.
Well, and I think it goes into other things too. Like if I'm working or I'm working out, Turnstile fits more occasions than the Arm does,
It
even
does,
as much
yeah.
as I think that album is an absolute achievement. And honestly, that's a really tough thing for me too, because people who listen to the podcast know that I go way more emo than Andrew, and so I think of, they're not pure emo, but I think of a band like Greet Death, and that record is going to maybe finish top of the year for me in terms of the thing I listen to the most. And it definitely deserves to be way up there on the list. It's an absolute achievement for the band. It might be the one I go back to in 5 years out of all of these.
Honestly, yeah.
And so I'm really struggling with that thought and how to rank these albums on there. Cause for me, it's the Greet Death, Die in Love record. You've got The World is a Beautiful Place, Dreams of Being Dust. I think a lot of the things that you said about The Armed and being an angry record and funneling the state of the world into a record and is very true about The World is a Beautiful Place as well.
Without a doubt.
And then, probably not in contention for tops of the list, but LS Dunes released one of my favorite records this year, but it was
Yeah,
released
that
in
was good.
January.
I
And
know,
it's like,
it feels like a lifetime ago.
it feels like not this year. It was so
Yeah.
long ago at this point. And so those are the things that I reconcile with. This is why I'm so happy we're doing the tier list.
It's funny too, because I can think of like an album like Deftones. I think that is damn near a perfect album. Like, it is so good from beginning to end. But like, part of their problem is it can't possibly be career defining for them anymore. They've just been around too long and have
They've
too
done too many
many
good things.
albums. Yeah. So, you know, I just don't think that there's any way for it to make the same in the moment impact that some of these other things that we talk about. And it's like, well, is that really fair? Because I mean, I don't think any of these bands we're talking about are in 20 years from now are going to put out an album that we would even like mention in passing in a discussion like that. Like, you can't sell short how incredible Deftones are and what they've continue to do and just how they just crank out amazing album after amazing album. And I do think whereas like Ohms was an album we loved in the moment but didn't have the staying power, I think I think this has a chance to have some staying power to it. Like, I think,
And in some ways, I think you're right. But in other ways, I just don't see it because I know myself. And when I go back, it's not where I'm going to land. And I will listen to it, but
yeah,
I will never land there. I'll probably listen to the eponymous record first. That's kind of my go-to these days.
same.
And then stuff like White Pony, and I
Even
still
Around
listen
the
to
Fur.
Around the Fur 3 or 4 times a year, easy
Yep.
minimum.
Yep. Yeah. And then I love Saturday Night Wrist as a fall record. It's a really great fall
Yeah.
record. So I usually will listen to that once in the fall. Diamond Eyes gets the occasional play. So that's a fair point. But I could just see this being in that rotation. Like, maybe after I listen to Diamond Eyes, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to go listen to Private Music.
Well, the other thing about the tier list, and I'm going to poke you again. The other thing about the tier list is you and I get to determine our own top 5 and our own top 10, but a tier list is kind of a negotiation between you and me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's going to be really difficult because some of your hardcore punk, you're going to have to try and push me. And when it comes to stuff like Sam Fender, I'm going to have to push you because you don't like Sam Fender. But that
No.
record is an absolute gem and an achievement. It's awesome from beginning to end. But you don't like it.
Yeah, but I'm going to concede on that so I can fight you more on Sleep Tokens.
And I would, well, we'll see, but I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be
Okay.
fighting.
Okay.
So the cool thing about our tier list too is we don't have a bad tier. Everything that
Correct.
goes on a tier is positive. It's just more
Absolutely.
positive.
Yeah.
If we hated something, we're not talking about it.
I'm curious, like, I do want to circle back and say that I do think that my number 3 and number 4 battle is going to be Greet Death and Turnstile. And I actually think that one is going to be a little bit of a tough choice too, because again, these albums do such different things for those bands. Like, Turnstile was the answer to the question of how in the hell do you follow up Glow On? Like, how do you do it? And they put out this bombastic album that does a lot of the same things that Glow On did, but just adds all these extra flourishes to it and textures and sounds and, and all that. Whereas Greet Death is just a masterpiece of songwriting. That's just a powerhouse of songwriting from beginning to end.
And two songwriters trading tens, really. Just 10 out of 10 songwriting back and forth and back and forth. And it's so crazy that this band geographically doesn't even live near each other anymore, because the chemistry artistically is about as strong as I've ever heard in my entire life. Another one that I'm going to have to grapple with that is probably going to be way down your list if it's on anywhere at all is Runner, A Welcome Kind of Weakness. It's just one of those records. It's so beautiful and wonderful, but it's almost adult contemporary. If you really put it along side by side with some of the adult contemporary that you'd find on soft rock stations, even though it's not, and it's more inventive and interesting and indie than that. But stylistically, it's kind of soft rock. And so it's something I absolutely love, but I don't know where it's going to fit for you.
That's an interesting one because I listened to it probably twice, I think. And I think it's an accomplishment. I really do.
It has one of my favorite songs of the entire year.
But it's just not my wheelhouse. So it's like that's always like the hard thing is when you can really truly recognize the album as an accomplishment, but still not be a thing that particularly connects with me personally.
It's crazy that the one of the songs that I think is the absolute best song of the year has 156,000 streams.
Yeah. I'm curious too to see what we do with something like Samia. That's one that you and I both loved, but was also very early in the year. That was one of the earlier albums that we both
April.
And I'll admit,
came out in April. Yeah,
it's been a couple months since I've listened to that album, so I need to like re-listen to that and figure out what tier I'm going to put that on. But there was a time when I thought that was going to be a top 10 album of the year for me. That's how much I love that album.
Yeah, I absolutely don't disagree. And then going back to the emo front, I got to place Downward and Anxious. And I know you don't like the Anxious record like I do.
I don't like the Anxious record.
I just think it's unbelievably good.
Yeah. Whereas Downward, I really like. I really like that album.
Have you ever gone back to Anxious? You really something about it, huh?
I don't know how to explain it.
I think it hits some Prince. I think it hits.
It's weird because it's one of those things that I shouldn't say I don't like it. It's not that I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel anything.
So weird.
And to me, the album just felt like it sat at a certain point and just did that for the whole album. And I just, nothing stood out about it for me. I don't know. Music is subjective and, I can't lie about how I feel about something, but it just, that was one that it just didn't do anything for me. It didn't make me not like it. It didn't make me like it. It was just like,
all right, so give me something that when you first listened to it, you were like, oh my gosh. And then the longer you sat with it, you realize you just got caught up in the moment or whatever, and it's not going to finish nearly as high. And then maybe one that's reverse of that. But let's start with something that and I'll go first so you have some time to think about it.
Give me care.
So you might remember back in February, early March, I probably blew up your text messages telling you, dude, you got to hear this Doves record, Constellations for the Lonely. Just totally blew me away. It turns out whatever headspace I was in, I was not drunk or high or anything in between, but whatever headspace I was in late at night when I listened to that record on the right pair of headphones, and I still think it's a good record, don't get me wrong, but it never blew me away again the way it did that first time, where it was kind of fool's gold. I got fooled a little bit. Still a good record, still an interesting record, but not at all the level that I thought it was going to be the minute I heard it.
So I think for me, it's Frog Lord is the one that's
a really good call.
Yeah, I was super into that when it came out, and I listened to that a couple times, but I don't know, after 5 or 6 listens, it started to, like, kinda lose its luster a little bit, and I was like, "I don't know if this is doing for me what I originally maybe kinda thought it was," and I don't it's one I don't anticipate finishing all that particularly high on my list.
So I've got another one that fits into this category, totally different kind of band. And I still think this record is very good, but the Callous Boys,
Yeah, that
that
was one I
one kind of blew me away at the beginning and then faded and kind of lost its luster. And I no longer think it's quite as good as that initial feeling.
yeah.
It felt like an achievement the first time I heard it.
I have another one as well as My Morning Jacket. That was one that I really liked it on my first I was like, "Oh, this is a return to form, like, blah, blah, blah." But I don't know, it just that had no staying power with me whatsoever.
Um, all right, now the reverse. You weren't blown away at first, but you like reconsidered it and you're like, oh my, this actually is really, really good. If you want me to go first, I can go first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this one might surprise you, actually. I haven't told you this one. A record you and I were both looking very much forward to, and I think we were both a little bit disappointed when we first heard it, Blonde Shell. I went back and I
Okay.
started listening to Blonde Shell again. And I don't think I got it the first time. I think it's definitely softer and more subtle than the last one, less in your face. But I think it's really, really well done. Great songwriting. And it was trying to achieve something different than what I expected. And that mismatch of what it achieved versus my expectations caused me to be a little bit disappointed. But the longer I've listened to it, the more impressed I am.
That's a really good one. I don't know that I necessarily have a great answer for this one. The closest I can really think of is probably Mama. What it was at Welcome to Blue Sky. That's
Wonderful album
probably
title, wonderful album cover, maybe a little bit monotone, monotonous.
yeah. I think I like it more though now than I did
I do too.
originally.
That's a really
So
good call.
yeah. But I'm not like over the moon about it. You know what
No.
I mean? Like, but it is one that as I've gone back and listened to my list, that's one that I listened to. I was like, oh wait, I actually like this more than I thought I did. And honestly, I might even put Downward in that category too for me because that's one that I kind of listened to originally and then just let it go. And then going back and re-listening, and it was like, oh yeah, this is actually really great.
All right, last but not least, because we only have about 10 minutes left, give me the roller coaster one where you started out hot on it, maybe you fell off, and when you revisit it, you're like, yeah, I was right the first time. It's really awesome. Because and of course, I'm asking the question because I've got answers.
I
So
got
let
an
me,
answer for that right away, but if you want to take it
no,
first, go
you go
ahead.
first, man.
I think for me, it's an interesting pick, but it's that Skinhead record. If you remember
It's
when
called
that,
It's a Beautiful Day, What a Beautiful Day. It came out in June.
yep,
And it was by far the most interesting hardcore album you ever had me listen to.
yep. And if you remember, like I immediately like bought it on vinyl the first, like immediately after listening to it. And then I went through a cooling off period where it was kind of like, I don't know, was I overrating this a little bit? Like maybe this isn't as much of a landmark as I thought it was. And I don't know why it did that, but it just I just went through a period later in the summer where I wasn't really feeling it as much, but I have started listening to it again, and it was very much like you said. It was like oh yeah, no, I was right. This album is incredible, and the vocals, the lyrics are just outstanding.
All right. My first one is Great Grandpa, where I love that record. I thought it was a massive achievement. And then I kind of almost talked myself out of it. It came out in, let's see, it came out in March. And I think by summer, late summer, I was starting to talk myself out of it. Like, is it really as good as I initially thought? And I kind of talked myself out of it. And then I started listening to it again as the season changed and it got a little bit
Mm-hmm.
colder. And I was like, nope, nope, I was right. It's an awesome record. It's incredible. And don't talk yourself out of it again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. What's your other one?
So this one, you're going to be sad and then happy that I talked myself out of it, and then happy that I talked myself back into it. But
Okay.
I think just with all the stuff that came out around it, and it was a little bit early in the year, and then we kept getting more and more new stuff, and I kept comparing the new stuff to this one. But in the end, this one holds up, and that's the Scowl record, Are We All Angels?
I wish I would have jumped in and guessed, because that's exactly what I thought you were going with that.
Anybody who's watching the YouTube video, by the way, your reaction actually scared me. I jumped.
Yeah. Yeah. No, because I'm like thinking like who it could be, and I'm like, wait, is this Scowl that he's talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I do have one more category. I forgot about this one.
Okay.
Is there, obviously not for your top 5, not for your top 2, and not for your top spot, is there a record that you're still trying to talk yourself into to kind of like keep getting so that it rises on your list?
Yeah, a couple jump to mind. One is a weird one that I don't think I'm serious about, but that's AFI. I think it's such a cool album that I want to rank it higher than it actually is. I don't know. It's just such a unique twist for them that I think I'm trying awfully hard to talk myself into. And the other one is probably Where. That's a band that I think you and I are both hot and cold on at various times. And when
I think
that was,
that's probably a better record than I give it credit for. I just
yeah,
don't think I was in the mood for it this year, which is weird.
yeah. But I, I don't know. Like I keep like every time like I'll think about it and I'll be like, wait, that has to be a top 10 album. And it's like, well, wait, you have to be honest with yourself. Like you don't listen to it hardly ever. Like how can it be a top 10 album if you don't listen to it?
So my answer for this one is, it makes me feel a little bit sheepish, because one of the reasons why is all their live videos keep hitting my social feeds, and they keep hitting my social feeds because, let's be honest, the lead singer is just unbelievably attractive, and that's Wet Leg. And so
Yeah.
because those videos keep popping straight to the top of my feed, I keep hearing the music and seeing their live performances, and I'm just more and more taken by them as a live band.
She is the most algorithmic friendly singer, because I'm in the
But
same
let's
boat,
put a
because you have to click on it. You're like,
yeah.
all right, I gotta click on it.
But let's put a fine point on it. She's very attractive. However, when you do click on the video and you watch them, she's so magnetic and such an
Yes,
unbelievable performer, and that band around her, and not around her, with her,
yeah.
they also are. Their live performances are so much better than I think the record is. And I've been so exposed to the live performances that it's talking me into the record.
So it's funny because I guarantee you, I watched more live performances by Wet Leg than any other band this year. I watched
A little bit on
so
purpose and a little
many.
bit on accident.
Yeah, yeah, no, and to your point, like it's not all just like, oh, I'm gonna click on this because the lead singer is attractive, but I mean, that certainly doesn't hurt. But one of the biggest revelations to me this year was what a great live band they become. They
Yes.
think I just somehow never realized what great musicians they were. And if you remember that very first performance where they were in like a big room, I don't even know what the performance was for or whatever, but I had shared with you, and I was just like blown away. I was like, dude, check out this perform, like these guys are great live. And the more and more I've watched, the more it's just reaffirmed that they are like incredible band. The two guitarists are just awesome with their chemistry and the
When I
way they
think they're the
play off each
only
other.
members anymore, the rest of the band is kind of hired, right? It's the two
No,
women.
no, no. So it it was originally the two
The two
the two
women.
women in the band.
And
They
then
are
they
now
actually
a
welcomed the
full
rest.
band,
Okay.
and so
That's right.
this new album was the entire band writing together as a band. And I think that's what's really just taken them over the top. The bass
There's
player
so
is
many stories
unbelievable.
about, well, the two members kicked everybody else out. And
Yeah,
then this is one of those stories where they had the backup band and they made them full on members.
correct. Yeah.
I get confused
And
sometimes. Don't take it
yeah.
personally.
And So having said all of that, I really like the Wet Leg album a lot, but they are so much better live than they are on record. So much better live than they are on record. And so it's like,
which is
it's
the
always
same as
hard.
Idols.
Very much true. Which that's a band that I have really fallen in love with after seeing them open for
Just so
Deftones.
crazy.
I've really gone back and listened to a lot of Idols. But yeah, so no, that's a good one. I like that Wet Leg record a lot.
All right. Well, I think that's where we're going to leave it today. When we get to the tier list, I can't wait to talk about, you know, I'm looking forward to also talking a couple of the 2024 records that we didn't discover until 2025, just where they would have fit if they had come out 2 months later. I know they won't make your official list, but this format is going to give us an opportunity to talk about that. And then a couple of records that, you know, I know I mentioned to you that just you probably didn't even listen to, and vice versa, where we're just going to have to trust each other to drop them in. But I have no idea how many records we're going to get to in the end.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
It's going to be a ton. So I'm really looking forward to it. We appreciate you guys so much for helping us with this thing, watching on YouTube, downloading the podcast on the podcast player of your choice, and going to albumofrecord.com. The best thing you can do is tell a friend, grab their phone, open up podcast app and download it and see if they enjoy listening to us. So until next time, this has been the Album of Record podcast.